Keep me going, but you don't know. Looking down on the seas of stone. 'Cause now I see you, I know that you're mine. Keep me going, my precious time.
Hello and welcome to the Weekly Feed Show, the show that takes a look at real issues and current topics and discusses them in a new and fun way. Tom? Controversy. Thank you, Tom. If you haven't guessed, Tom is our in-house score on the show. Anyways, up tonight, we have a very interesting panel of guests, all with a story to tell. We're going to put them through different games and discussions based around what sort of topics they're coming in here with. We also have some interesting stories to show from a recent campaign for the Socialist Party in the local area. We have also visited a very interesting organisation, Signal Film and Media, who are going to tell us all about the exciting work that they've been doing recently. But that is not all. We're also going to be joined by a live act at the very end of the show who are going to perform their latest single for us. So stay tuned, and for now, let's meet our guests.
Hello, my name's Henry Goodwin. I am from Sustainable Carlisle. We are a local organisation who are helping to try and create the transition that we need to make sure we have a green and sustainable future. And we've been recently involved with Tully House and their wonderful Once Upon a Planet exhibition. See you later.
My name's Sarge Gaffar, OBE, and I'm CEO of Multicultural Cumbria.
What are you looking forward to doing on the show?
Oh, just having a bit of fun, I think, more than anything else, and listening to everybody else's opinions.
Hi, my name is Paul Cassiera. I'm a frontline leader at Pirelli UK, based in Dalston. I'm also a consultant with my company, PCAS Consultancy. We do some coaching for the Newcastle Falcons under the Development Player Programme. In this show I like to sort of listen to what everyone has to say, but certainly is to sort of bring my side where I came from a background that we had to really work hard for what we've got.
Hi, I'm Tina Borgia and I'm a community arts practitioner. I've done a lot of work with Multicultural Cumbria, based in Carlisle. Passionate about equal opportunities for everybody, and especially working with minority groups, ethnic minorities, and trying to give them a platform to showcase their individuality and their talents, their skills, and really just sort of bring multiculturalism into Cumbria.
Hello and welcome back. Please allow me to reintroduce you to all of our guests. We have Henry, we have Paul, we have Tina, and we have Sarge. So our next segment is Fact Checker. In this round, we're going to display a statement on the feed screen over there, and I'm going to get you guys to, I would say vote, but it'll be more like just say what you think because there's an even number of us. And then we will see whether or not that statement is true or false.
Yes, it does appear that way, doesn't it? Facts and figures, they all seem to be going off the market these days, don't they? Just depends on, well, if you want the promotion, I suggest those floors do need scrubbing.
I guess so. Can we get our first statement on the screen, please? Donald Trump has said that joining the Paris Climate Agreement for the USA would have been a complete disaster. What are your thoughts and feelings?
Oh, I think it's an absolute truth, but then with Donald Trump, I guess anything that's not his idea would be quite disastrous.
yeah, that's fair, he is that way.
America not joining Paris Accord is disastrous for the world. By not joining, they're not allowing their own populations to have democratic power and decide what they should be. They're not talking to people across the states who are suffering from fires, they're suffering from floods, they're suffering from freezings on the east coast. So the people are beginning to suffer extremely badly, and if they were able to get the legislation rewritten to protect people and to help with the climate, then they wouldn't have these problems.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So we're going true?
Yeah.
False?
Yes, I would say that's false.
Tina?
I'm going true as well.
True. Paul?
I'll say it's false.
You would say it's false.
It's
Okay,
false.
let's get our answer. That is false. The London School of Economics quote that joining would in no way impose any damaging demands or policies on the US, and that Trump had drastically different understanding of what the Paris Climate Accord actually is. So, our next statement is, the BBC reports a quote from top scientists that says, if we don't halve global emissions by 2025, we have no chance in beating climate change. What are our thoughts and feelings here?
Is it true?
True.
Yeah,
True.
definitely.
True across the board.
Yeah.
Why is that?
We've been told by the International Panel on Climate Change that we've got 30 months to change our behaviour. We have got CO2 levels and global heating continuing to rise, even after, 20 odd years since 1988 of meetings to try and resolve this, and instead of getting better, it's getting worse, and it's affecting biodiversity as well. We've got people suffering from this, millions of people across the world, in Asia, South America, Africa.
I was going to say that as
suffering
well.
from
It's a
this
very
right
different
now.
story if you're a developing country.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're
especially-
suffering right now,
Yeah.
from behaviours that we think we deserve. We're still flying too much. We're still using fast fashion, etc.
Yeah.
Things that are thoughtless to us have great consequences elsewhere.
Hugely.
Okie dokie. Well, that statement is in fact true. We are already just over the tipping point alone, and the IPCC report has been massively understated and misrepresented. From the Mail on Sunday, we have our third statement. Far from vanishing, the Arctic ice cap has expanded for the second year in succession, with a surge of between 43 and 63% since 2012. What are we thinking, what are we feeling?
I think it was false, that one.
False?
Yes. I would say
Any
that.
reason as to why you think it's false, or gut feeling?
Just a gut feeling.
Fair play?
We've seen ice caps melting. We've seen glacial melting
Yeah.
all around the world. In the ice caps, we've had a rise of almost 40 degrees last
Jesus.
year. We're beginning to see problems in Greenland. We're beginning to see problems in northern Canada. Some of these pieces of ice actually melt. They seem to be going faster than scientists thought a couple of years ago, and it can raise the sea level. And there is a large proportion of humanity that live on the coast that are at threat.
Which is a bit of an issue.
Well, we've seen it
It
here.
is for the UK, isn't it? We're surrounded by
We'll be
it.
swallowed entirely.
Yeah,
You've already got a
absolutely.
village. You've already got a village in
Scary.
Wales that's getting everyone's having to leave
Jesus.
because of the flooding.
Okay, so we're going false across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our answer is, this statement is false. The article failed to disclose that 2012 was a record-breaking year, with the summer sea ice at its lowest level since satellite measurements began in 1997. Okay, our fourth and final statement. This is from an article written by a former editor of the Daily Telegraph. Out of the major developed countries, the US has reduced its CO2 emissions the most.
I would say that's false.
Yeah.
False across the board.
Just can't see it.
I think certainly with Donald's stance, and also where he's driving industry in itself,
Yeah.
then it wasn't clean industry. It was industries that was creating the emissions. So that's where I say to.
Has to be
He
the
was
way.
blatantly ignorant, wasn't he? And sort of really encouraging that sort of ignorant population and followers. So, yeah.
It's a tricky situation, because if that's where your voter base is, you're rewarded for behaviours that maybe represent a large section of the population that are more concentrated versus the Democrats who have to appeal to a broader variety of people from many, many different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Tricky one. So we've all voted false across the board. Our answer is false. Figures published by the US Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, shows a reduction of 13.4% lower, which was outmatched by the UK's 31.5% reduction over the same time period. So, well done us, I suppose. Good for us. So, that was our first round. While we prep for the next one, let's find out what's next, because it's time for Issue of the Week, the part of the show that listens to the issues affecting our communities.
Well, I'm Brent Kennedy, I'm Secretary of the Carlisle Socialist Party, and we're campaigning here against the gas and electricity price rises. We're being ripped off by the privatised utilities. We've got a petition demanding that they be renationalised, but under democratic control of the workers in the industry and the customers, the consumers. As an example, EDF is the nationalised French utility, and in France, because it's nationalised, the price rises have been limited to 5%. They've got a private subsidiary in Britain, and of course they've increased the prices by 54%. They want to increase the prices by another 50% in October. And by the way, the North Sea gas and oil companies have had no increase in costs whatsoever, so they don't need to put the price up. They're just jumping on the bandwagon on the world market. They're about 45 billion pounds in profits. Their CEO has described BP as a money-making machine, and it just represents a huge transfer of wealth for the majority of the population, the working class and the middle class, to a handful of wealthy shareholders. If there was mass pressure from below, and fundamentally there's no difference between the Tories, Labour and Lib Dems. The Labour's got a demand for a windfall tax, but it's only 10% on the windfall profits. So, you know, if I mug you and steal 10 quid off you, and Keir Starmer comes along, he would take that £10, he would give you a quid back and allow me to walk away with 9 quid. that's you know. So we're calling on the trade unions to form a new mass party for working class people and young people that would really stand behind these policies, and the policies that Jeremy Corbyn put forward, which Labour won't. And I think it's only having a new mass working class party with socialist policies that you're really going to see any change. Come along, we meet every Monday night in the South End Club in St Nicholas Street at 7 o'clock, and you'd be very welcome.
Hello and welcome back to the studio. That was Brent Kennedy of the Socialist Party with his campaign. For our next round, we're going to play Who's in My Cabinet. I have here a selection of unsavoury and or controversial political figures, and we're going to go down the line and ask all of our guests who they would want in their cabinet for several positions. We have the PM themselves, we have Defence, Chancellor and Infrastructure. We're going to see who everyone chooses for which role. So, I'll run you through them. First up, we have Richard Nixon.
No.
Tricky Dick himself. We have Robert Mugabe.
No.
We have Gordon Brown.
I'd have him in my cabinet.
Yeah. We have Putin.
No.
Oh my God.
Bit of a throwback, Benito Mussolini.
Definitely not.
We have Fidel Castro.
I would have Fidel in my cabinet, yes.
Wow, that is bold.
Who's that?
Idi Amin.
Nope.
And
Mussolini.
the Iron Lady herself.
Afraid not.
Margaret Thatcher.
Oh my
Sorry,
goodness.
Maggie. Out.
No,
So-
she's definitely.
We've got
in the
4
same.
positions. Who do we want in our cabinet?
Ooh. Controversial figures. I think all
I think
politicians are ones.
financially, Chancellor. I think
Yeah.
Gordon Brown was pretty kind of good as a Chancellor.
Yeah.
You know, I think unfortunately as a leader he didn't quite get there, but certainly he made some kind of.
You would put
wise
Nixon in charge of your
decisions.
finances.
I think for infrastructure we might as well choose Mussolini because he got the buses running on time or the trains running on time. If he didn't let him get his hands on anything else, then he could at least get the trains running.
Infrastructure, okay. So
Prime Minister is going to have to be Fidel.
Prime Minister.
For me.
Bold move. Might be hard to undo that one if you.
It might be hard. But if we've got Gordon as Chancellor, then I'm sure he can manage them.
And then we've got
defence.
Trick is, if you pick somebody who's a
military person.
Yeah. How long is it until we get a coup on Fidel Castro?
Well, he attacks, he doesn't defend.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's no point in having him in there.
Not much of a defensive player.
No. So let's turn these down so we know where we are left. So those 2 are away. We've already got that one.
Right.
And we've got Mussolini, haven't we?
Right.
Oh, and
I mean, at least people would run a mile from Maggie Thatcher, so you know, some would say that would be.
Well, I think she's
defence.
I think she's a scary lady, and for defence, I think the face would go a long way alone.
Yeah.
She could hit them with her handbag.
I know.
Hit with some stern words, some frank conversation.
Yeah.
I think one thing, believe it or not, that people didn't think that she does actually listen, which obviously is kind of a key kind of thing there. So I would stick her in defence.
Defence.
So we've got
best of a bad bunch.
Absolutely. So Fidel,
Prime Minister Fidel Castro.
We've got Chancellor is Gordon Brown.
Chancellor Gordon Brown.
We've got defence as in Margaret Thatcher.
Old Maggie Thatch.
And we've got Benito.
Our infrastructure. That's our whole cabinet.
We've got our cabinet.
Here's our guys. Show the pic straight to camera.
Reality.
Let's hope this day never comes.
Yes. I'll give you those little.
Our losers for this segment are Robert Mugabe.
Gone.
Richard Nixon.
Gone.
Vladimir Putin.
Gone.
Straight gone. And Idi Amin.
Gone.
Gone. Straight out of there. They're not in our cabinet. Excellent. Okay, so that was who's in our cabinet. For our next section, we're going to go to another VT where me and a few other crew members took a trip down to Signal Films to see what they're up to and see what they've got going on down there. Hello. Today we're at Signal Films in Barrow Furness so that we can have a chat with John and Kez and see what they're up to, what sort of projects they've got going on. So let's go do that.
My name is Kez Turner. I am a project manager and project coordinator here at Signal, so that means I also do the marketing and recruitment for much of the projects. What that looks like is a mixture of delivery, coordination, organisation and sort of admin work really.
I'm John Borgia. I work for Signal Film Media as the technical manager here. I do all aspects of the technical requirements for Signal Film Media and the various projects that we do. Yeah, we cover a vast array of digital media basically. We have an arts and heritage programme and then we also have quite a lot of training programmes. But the main programmes we're running at the moment are Signal Starters, which is 8 to 11-year-olds, and then we've got Get Digital, which is 16 to 19, 20, and then we also have the BFI Academy, which is a film production academy with the British Film Institute. We're also currently running the Sankey Archive heritage project, and we've just wrapped up our West Coast photo arts project as well. So nice and busy, and we're also brought a new building into the community as well.
We are the only provider of the BFI Film Academy outside of a major city. And really, the next ones along to us are Manchester and Glasgow. So we cover a huge area of Cumbria and North Lancashire from the ages of 8 through to 108, really.
Signal Starters is aimed at people who don't normally get the opportunity to have a go at these kind of things, and that's the 8 to 11 year olds, and we run various taster sessions, quite often in animation, because animation is really good at giving you a wide spectrum view of the film industry, because you do all aspects of it within a very short period of time. It's also a stigma around the creative industries. You've got to be an arty type, you've got to be this, that and the other. I'm highly technical, but I've always worked in the creative industries, and a lot of people who, you know, if they are technical, they tend to think, oh, I've got to be an engineer, I've got to do science, but actually you need your technical people in the creative industries as much as creative sort of people, and technical people tend to be creative in a very different way to, say, your painter or your director, but they're still equally as creative. It's just giving people that opportunity to realise something different. I think one of the BFI group we had really ended up getting into sound in a real big way, and completely changed the course of the way they took their career and essentially their life now. So it can be quite an eye-opener for some people.
They found that university courses were not bringing people up to being set ready with their graduates, so that's why it was generated, and they've been tracking it now for 10 years and found that actually many of the BFI graduates are going into positions faster and better than they would have just going a normal academic university route.
It's about opportunity. We tend to try and have it driven by the participants. What do they want to do? You know, a lot of this though is funding dependent. This is all about, you know, making sure we're keeping it free at the point of use to the participants, because one of the things we want to do is make sure that opportunity is open to all. So
which fits. You can see how it fits into the overall mission. Welcome back. Thank you very much again to Signal Films for letting us tour around their studios. It was an amazing experience. Now, for our next section, we have our topic of the week. This week, our topic is Russia, Ukraine. So, let me open it to the floor. Any thoughts and feelings jump out at you right away?
Yes, it always appears about that, doesn't it, when you see the old Russia versus Ukraine scenario. I'd probably say that if you were to look at Mr. Putin these days, he looks like he's got a rocket up his arse, quite frankly. Considering that whenever you see him, he's always in a bit of a speed walk, isn't he? Sort of like as if he's looking for someone. He's like half the time when he's at the table, you know, when he had that massive table that was stretched out, half the time I thought, has someone put him in a high chair because he can't see over it, he's like that.
Thank you very much, Tom. That's a good point. I've seen a lot of people, less so in news headlines, I think, but people that I've been speaking to about Russia, Ukraine, seem to have general thoughts and feelings about, like, Putin looking sickly.
I read something that said that he had a specialist doctor and that he is sort of going through end-of-life kind of treatment. So whether this is a last hurrah, and he's quite belligerent in what he's doing, then, you know, but that's in my thoughts, then if it's somebody who has got nothing to lose, then hopefully he doesn't give the, I'll press the button.
Not the last hurrah, last hurrah.
Well, that's the concern if he is in that state of mind, really.
Well, psychologically, you've got to be a bit sick though, really, haven't you, to do what he's doing?
Yeah.
I think he's been getting away with it though, hasn't he? Because when he sort of stretched towards this crime media, there wasn't a lot that was done, and then obviously he's thinking, you know, I'll take a little bit more. He's always had that danger, should I say, but because he's got away with it once, he thinks he may get away with it again, but I think he's found it not as easy as he thought it would have, really.
And it makes you wonder as well that we have all these, the United Nations, etc., and it's meant to be about preventing all these wars happening and cooperation. Yeah, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
You know, and if it was another country, maybe America or Britain would physically go in. But they're not going into Ukraine, and I think that's been the disappointment for Ukrainians. But what's the difference between Ukraine and, say, Syria? Why is it being dealt with differently?
Treated one way.
I would probably say it's more so just that risk, isn't it? Because Russia's such a large state, and certainly the retaliation that could potentially give is the part that possibly thinks, well, actually, if we start this, it might be a bit of a world war situation, because you've got China sitting back at the moment, sort of sitting, and China more or less would side with Russia opposed to anything else, so to become a sort of
strange position we're in, because it's like there's an odd level of detachment. It feels like now we've got some kind of speculative war. Like war has become a strange spectator sport where you can talk about it and we can discuss it, but it still doesn't really feel present. But at the same time, there's genuine fear of nuclear holocaust.
It's becoming more and more real for people because we're going to have huge amounts of people displaced. We already have lots of people displaced. But it seems to me it's a crisis of democracy. This was an unprovoked attack by Putin, not by the Russian people, but by Putin. And there is, if you're a journalist in Russia, you've got to watch out for your life.
Of course.
Or if you're an activist who's actively protesting against Putin, you've got to watch out for your life.
There was like there was an interview with, I believe he was a police officer, that said he was hearing propaganda that basically the West was in like some kind of completely fascist state. From his perspective, which I'm sure it often is in war, right? He feels like he's a liberator versus. So when walls are up that high, how do you broach that?
There is the old saying about, if you have a few number of people, wealthy people, who control your media, then you lose your freedom and you lose your democracy. You can see that in Putin's Russia. But we can also see it in America. We can see it here. You've got over 80% of media owned by individuals who live overseas in Britain alone, and who decide what the front pages are going to be, decide what they're going to put on. You put some facts on earlier on that were not facts, the ones from the Mail and the Telegraph, for example, and bits of information, and it controls populations. Meanwhile, everything that is about civic society, about communities, about organisations working together gets defunded, and so everyone's scrabbling around, with very little, while you've got this huge difference in wealth. We've got a tiny percentage of the population own more, about 1% own about 50% of the wealth of the whole planet. All of that attacks democracy and attacks people's ability to participate in it.
How do we increase the autonomy of the individual? Because if I speak to people my age, there's like a nihilism as the default. You speak to them, they say, politicians just lie. What's the point? I don't want to take part in it. But at the same time, if you do try and engage, you're disheartened left and right, because how could you not be?
You become disheartened if you're doing it by yourself.
That's true.
The more of us that become active, instead of sort of passive consumers of news
and wars,
of materialistic stuff, all the fast fashion, television programs. Instead of just being passive consumers, we can challenge these things. We have got power. There's more of us than there is of them. Too much power has moved up through the state to business, and we always hear it's the economy. Meanwhile, people are dying. People are being abused.
It's about empowering people to have a voice, isn't it?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, and it comes right back to that person on the street not standing by and watching things happen that they're appalled by feeling like they can actually stand up and speak out.
And do something.
And that's the thing with the whole war with Putin is people feel so powerless that it kind of breeds that negative apathy even more.
So I guess ultimately what we can do is encourage people to make their corner of the world better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take responsibility for the things that they can, not because they should, but because they can.
Yeah.
And hopefully these individuals will then have the power to make the change.
Absolutely.
We made it, so we can fix it.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. That is us. Now, we are going to our final segment of the show, a live performance from the band Conflux, playing their brand new single. But before we do that, we've got a special surprise from one of our crew members in the studio. And I believe it's coming along right now.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear James. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah! Just blow that cake. No candle, just blowing the cake.
Invisible candles.
I wish I encountered.
Beautiful.
And to close with a final joke, I shall tell you something interesting. As we look over... Oh, what's that over there? Yes, that's the United Nations. Oh, it's the Russian chap. Hold on, 1 minute. What's that? Oh, he's fallen asleep again, is he? Biden's fallen asleep. Someone's sending Angela Rayner to cross her legs like Basic Instinct. Yes, we'll do that. Good night.
We hope we'll see you guys again very soon. However, for now, here to play us out, we have the Conflux playing their single, She Keeps Me Going. That's a wrap, baby.
Right.